On April 8th in 563, it's believed that the birth of Gautama Buddha occurred. On April 8th, Buddhists celebrate the commemoration of the birth of Gautama Buddha, the founder of Buddhism, thought to have lived in India from 563 BC to 483 BC. Actually, the Buddhist tradition that celebrates his birthday on April 8th originally placed his birth in the 11th century BC, and it wasn't until the modern era that scholars determined that he was more likely born in the 6th century BC, and possibly in May rather than April. According to the Tripitaka, which is recognized by scholars as the earliest existing records of Buddha's life and discourses, Gautama Buddha was born as Prince Siddhartha, the son of the king of the Sakya people. The kingdom of the Sakyas was situated on the borders of present-day Nepal and India. Siddhartha's family was of the Gautama clan. His mother, Queen Mahamaya, gave birth to him in the park of Lumbini in what is now southern Nepal. A pillar placed there in commemoration of the event by an Indian emperor in the 3rd century BC still stands. At his birth, it was predicted that the prince would either become a great world monarch or a Buddha, a supremely enlightened teacher. The Brahmins told his father, King Suddhodana, that Siddhartha would become a ruler if he were kept isolated from the outside world. The king took pains to shelter his son from misery and anything else that might influence him towards a religious life. Siddhartha was brought up in great luxury, and he married and fathered a son. At age 29, he decided to see more of the world and began excursions off the palace grounds in his chariot. In successive trips, he saw an old man, a sick man, a corpse, and since he had been protected from the miseries of aging, sickness, and death, his charioteer had to explain what they were. Finally, Siddhartha saw a monk, and impressed with the man's peaceful demeanor, he decided to go into the world to discover how the man could be so serene in the midst of such suffering. Siddhartha secretly left the palace and became a wandering ascetic. He traveled south where the centers of learning were and studied meditation under the teachers Alara Kalama and Udaraka Ramaputra. He soon mastered their systems, teaching high states of mystical realization, but was unsatisfied and went out again in search of nirvana, the highest level of enlightenment. For nearly 6 years, he undertook fasting and other austerities, but these techniques proved to be ineffectual, and he abandoned them. After regaining his strength, he seated himself under a pipal tree at what is now Bodh Gaya in west central India, and promised not to rise until he had attained the supreme enlightenment. After fighting off Mara, an evil spirit who tempted him with worldly comforts and desires, Siddhartha reached enlightenment, becoming a Buddha at the age of 35. The Gautama Buddha then traveled to the Deer Park near Benares, India, where he gave his first sermon and outlined the basic doctrines of Buddhism. According to Buddhism, there are 4 noble truths. 1. Existence is suffering. 2. The suffering is caused by human craving. 3. There is a cessation of the suffering, which is nirvana. Nirvana can be achieved in this or future lives via the eightfold path of right views, right resolve, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. For the rest of his life, the Buddha taught and gathered disciples to his Sangha, or community of monks. He continued his eternity at the age of 80, telling his monks to continue working for their spiritual liberation by following his teachings. Buddhism eventually spread from India to Central and Southeast Asia, China, Korea, Japan, and in the 20th century to the West. Western Hemisphere, that is. April 8th, 1974 is when Hank Aaron of the Atlanta Braves hits his 715 career home run, breaking Babe Ruth's legendary record of 714 homers. A crowd of 53,775 people, the largest in the history of the Atlanta Fulton County Stadium, was with Aaron that night to cheer when he hit a fourth-inning pitch off the Los Angeles Dodgers' Al Downing. However, as Aaron was an African American who had received death threats and racist hate mail during his pursuit of one of baseball's most distinguished records, the achievement was bittersweet. Henry Louis Aaron Jr., born in Mobile, Alabama on February 5th in 1934, made his major league debut in 1954 with the Milwaukee Braves, just 7 years after Jackie Robinson broke baseball color barriers and became the first African American to play in the majors. Aaron, known as hardworking and quiet, was the last Negro League player to also compete in the major leagues. In 1957, with the characteristically little fanfare, Aaron, who primarily played right field, was named the National League's most valuable player as the Milwaukee Braves won the pennant. A few weeks later, his 3 home runs in the World Series helped his team triumph over the heavily favored New York Yankees. Although Hammerin' Hank specialized in home runs, he was also an extremely dependable batter. And by the end of his career, he held baseball's career record for most runs batted in 2,297. Aaron spent his 23-year big league career with 2 organizations. He was with the Braves from 1954 to 1974, first in Milwaukee and then in Atlanta, when the franchise moved in 1966, and he closed it out with 2 seasons back in Milwaukee for the Brewers. Aaron hung up his cleats in 1976 with 755 career home runs, a record that stood until 2007, when it was broken by a controversial slugger, Barry Bonds. Bonds admitted to using steroids in 2011. Aaron had many more achievements other than baseball. He went on to become one of baseball's first African-American executives with the Atlanta Braves and a leading spokesperson for minority hiring. Hank Aaron was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1982. He continued his eternity on January 22nd in the year 2021 at the age of 86. It was on April 8th in 1993 that the Space Shuttle Discovery lifts off from the Kennedy Space Center. On board is astronaut Ellen Ochoa, soon to become the first Hispanic woman in space. Ochoa started at NASA in 1988 after receiving a doctorate in electrical engineering from Stanford University. 2 years later, she was selected as an astronaut. On her first mission, Ochoa served as a mission specialist on a 9-day space flight, the primary mission of which was to study Earth's ozone layer. She went on to fly 3 more space shuttle missions, one of which conducted further atmospheric research and 2 which carried components to the International Space Station. Over the course of her 4 flights, Ochoa compiled a total time of 40 days, 19 hours, and 35 minutes in space. In addition to her extra-planetary contributions, Ochoa has served the cause of space exploration in a number of ways from Earth. She holds several patents for technologies related to automated space exploration and served as director of the Johnson Space Center, the first Hispanic director and the second woman to hold the position from 2013 to 2018. Among numerous other awards, she has received NASA's highest honor, the Distinguished Service Medal.